Hi, and welcome back to our latest Conversations with Chrissy. So glad to have you with us today as we talk about the important conversation of motorcycle safety. Obviously, in the prime of our riding season, we celebrate May as motorcycle safety, but we know motorists are out there, motorcyclists are enjoying riding their bikes. And so I'm really proud to be joined today by a First Sergeant Canfield with the Maryland State Police. Would you like to tell me a little bit about your history with the state police and how you got involved with motorcycle safety?
How did I get involved? I'm going on just a little over 22 years with the department. I started coming out of the academy with a passion for motorcycles and the background kind of put away in a pocket. Didn't even realize the state police truly had motorcycles.
Interesting. So you rode already when you joined?
I did. And actually, up in Pikesville, I ran into a sergeant on a motorcycle one day at a scene and started asking questions. How do you do that? How do I do that? And he gave me some phone numbers and contacts and told me what I had to do. And through a lot of trials and tribulations, I made it to where I am.
Well, it's wonderful. So you got to take a passion you already had in your personal life and bring it
get to do it for work. Absolutely.
Work. That's wonderful. And it is so important because, as I mentioned, this is really the dangerous time of year for motorcyclists. Between May and September is that critical time period.
It is.
So can you talk a little bit about what you do every day? It's not what folks typically think of in terms of our officers, but it's such an important role.
Well, I actually do a lot of what all the other road troopers do. I just do it in a capacity I think is more unique. I can do everything they can do. I just have basically two limitations. One, I don't go out in the winter when there's ice or snow on the ground, and I can't transport passengers. But I can do all the other patrol capabilities. Our motorcycles are equipped with the same kind of computer technology that the cars have. Our gear is rated to keep us dry in the rain, warm in the winter. And we're doing okay in the summer heat and humidity. But we have all the tools in those saddlebags and in the compartments that they do in the cars, just smaller versions of them.
So same mission,
just doing it better and sometimes more efficient in the congested traffic conditions, especially around the beltway systems.
Definitely a great point. So let's start with what you see out there. We know that 60% of crashes occur between 2 p.m. and 9 p.m. and over half occur between Friday and Saturday. That weekend time period is dangerous, we know, whether you're in a motor vehicle or a motorcycle. But I wonder if you could talk about those unique things you see out there with motorcycles.
Well, talking about the time of year and times that these are occurring, well, a lot of motorcycle riders keep these bikes in the garage. So coming home for the weekends, they're getting off work, they're raising the garage doors, and they're taking the motorcycle out for the first time, maybe for the season, maybe that week, maybe that month. And that's often when we're seeing the collision rates happening more frequently.
A little rusty, maybe.
A little rusty, yeah, yes.
And then as we get into the riding season, I wonder what you see, maybe people out enjoying nice days, wanting to maybe push it a little further. Do you see speed as an issue?
See a combination of motorcycle error and car errors actually on the roadway causing some of these accidents. A lot of motorcycle accidents we're seeing do involve single vehicle. So it comes down to the rider riding just above their skill level, not quite to the point where they're capable of safely operating that vehicle. And sometimes it's the inattentive drivers we're seeing on the roadway, not paying attention to the motorcyclist that's rightfully in their lane of travel.
Yeah, I know we talk about overall the common causes of crashes, of course, impairment, that distraction you mentioned, and speed. I would imagine those same things are just as dangerous, both for the driver and the vehicle to be doing around a motorcycle as well as the motorcyclist.
Absolutely. Distracted driving and cell phones in combination with the motorcyclist on the road is a horrible combination. Just people need to put their cell phones in their glove box when they get in their car and leave it alone until they get where they're going. A simple text message that somebody might think is no harm, no foul. You're picking it up on the interstate and look at it for 3 seconds. They've already traveled a football field down the road. So they've missed all those other things going on around them.
That's such an important statistic to remind people. I think cell phones are almost an extension of our hand at this point, and just a reminder that it does travel so quickly and you can miss so many things and unfortunately wind up in a serious crash, injuring yourself or someone else.
Yes.
I also think it's really important to think about training and licensing. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But
Okay.
do you see a lot of unlicensed motorcyclists out there? People thinking, oh, I can just jump on a bike and figure it out myself.
I'm going to say at the start of the season,
Okay.
the beginning of May, honestly, probably about 50% of the riders we encounter are unlicensed. Doesn't mean they're not experienced. Doesn't mean they haven't been doing it that way for a long time, but they are not properly licensed here in the state. As the season goes on, I tend to see those numbers kind of change a little bit from my perspective.
Well, that's good to hear. At least it seems like people are going out and getting that license. And I'd like to make a plug. Got something called fast track licensing. I know you're very familiar with, which is an opportunity for folks who may be experienced, but just never got that license for whatever reason. They thought it was maybe too difficult or would take too much time. You can go to our website, mva.maryland.gov, and find out the locations where you can get that license. Take the knowledge portion of the test as well as the riding portion all on the same day. Leave with that license, get, have those proper credentials that they can show if they happen to be pulled over.
Yes.
So great there. Want to talk a little bit more about training because I know you're very involved in Maryland Motors, and we want to educate folks about what that's about and why it's so important.
So Maryland Motors is a program that was started a couple years ago and funded through the Highway Safety Office. It's an acronym, MOTORS. It's motor officers training others on rider safety. And what it is it's a one-day class. It's free for anybody who wants to participate. Each class holds 16 students, and there are up to 8 police motorcycle officers, both from the Department of Maryland State Police and also a variety of other departments throughout the state who have police motorcycles involved. So it might be some of us, it might be Baltimore County, it could be MDTA, it could be a combination of all of us sitting there in the classrooms. We spend a full day. One part of that day includes an hour of open road riding, where you're going to ride with that police officer on the road on a set pre-established roadway, of course. And at the end of that hour, they're going to come back and they're going to talk about how is your driving behavior? What do they see? What do they recommend? Sometimes some of the riders I've questioned why they did something, I've learned something from them, even with my years of experience. After the ride and the discussions, we come back in. We'll have a little bit of a classroom, have an hour break or so for lunch. We'll come back and we actually do some skills riding too, which you see a lot of police motorcycle riders doing inside the cones. We use the real tiny cones. It's on their bikes. And a lot of the feedback we've gotten is a good time. And then we'll finish the day in the classroom, just discussing a variety of different safety techniques they can handle on the roadways.
Oh, sounds really good. Is that geared towards our new riders, or is it more for experienced riders?
This class is geared towards anybody. If you just got your endorsement last week, I recommend it to you. If you got your license 40 years ago and you're still riding and still having a good time, the class is for you. It's for everybody, from sport bike to cruisers to new riders to older riders. Absolutely, anybody.
Good to hear. And what do people need? So they want to take the class. What are the requirements in order for them to sign up, and what do they need to bring with them?
The website is zerodeathsmd.gov. To take the class, you're going to need your actual motorcycle endorsement on your license prior to attending. You're going to need to come on a license or on a motorcycle that is registered properly and also has valid insurance. Other than that, just a good attitude and be prepared to enjoy your day.
That's great. So where can people take these courses? Are they available throughout the state or just centrally in Maryland?
They are. The program is ever growing. And this year we're teaching in Fort Meade, Baltimore Harley-Davidson, Bob's Motorcycles, and we were teaching at a location, or we were getting ready to teach a location in Frederick that's going to wind up being moved to Hagerstown Community College, it looks like.
Okay.
The goal is hopefully next year to move into some also All-American Harleys. So we have Southern Maryland. And next year we're trying to get over under the Eastern Shore as well, so we can encompass people that live throughout the entire state.
Well, that's great that opportunities are available throughout Maryland. And it just sounds like an excellent opportunity, whether you're a newer rider or somebody that's more experienced, just to continue to improve your skills. So you really have an interesting perspective. Do you still ride personally when you're off duty, or is it not? It's a little different.
I do ride off duty. I don't own a motorcycle anymore.
Okay.
This time of year, sometimes it's 60 to 80 hours a week I'm on the machine. So I wasn't riding a personal bike as often. I still rent them from time to time for trips.
I was just wondering if what you saw while you're on your work vehicle versus what you see when you're on your personal vehicle is a little bit different.
Very similar. Very similar. People don't always recognize the police motorcycle as a police motorcycle until the red and blue lights come on.
Sure.
So
Sure. So give us some examples, some of the things that you've seen when you're out on the road, both motorcycles, but also, as you said, drivers. What are some kind of dangerous scenarios that you've seen, things that people should look out for?
Look out for motorcycles. My biggest recommendation for motorcycle riders, there's an old acronym called ATGAT, all the gear, all the time. So whether you're going to take that weekend long trip, put on all the gear before you get on the motorcycle. If you're going 2 blocks down the road to grab something to eat, put on all the gear. It's a lifesaver. It really is.
I feel like it's like the seat belt, right?
It's like a seat belt and or an airbag.
Right?
Yes,
it doesn't matter how far. I love that. It's
yes, great. Absolutely. So make sure you have all gear all the time. You want to make sure you're fully encompassed. Riding gear starts all the way at the base of your feet and goes all the way to the top of your head. So you want good, durable, over the ankle leather boots preferred. And yeah, I still see people in flip flops and tennis shoes running down the road on their motorcycle. Not recommended. Denim pants is a basic coverage, but you also have denim pants with Kevlar and different impact armor. Then you actually have good riding pants you can wear. Jackets, they make jackets for your wintertime riding. They have jackets for the summer with mesh and all the CE armor built into them to help you in a fall, covering your arms. Gloves, put the gloves on. If something happens and you were to fall off the motorcycle, the first thing usually to brace your fall is your hands. So full-fingered leather gloves. Helmets. In the state of Maryland, we have to be DOT or Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standard compliant helmets. They can be half shells, they can be 3/4, but the modular helmets or the full face helmets are probably your best bet. They give you much more protection for a full face impact if that were to occur.
And a lot of that gear now is reflective too, so you should think about that, right? If you're riding at
the
night,
contrasting colors are always good, and most of your good motorcycle riding equipment will have Scotchlite reflective gear in it, so headlights or lighting will enhance conspicuousness of the rider going down the road.
That's great.
And like I said earlier, motorcyclists, ride to your limit. Do not push above your limits. Sometimes as motorcycle riders, we'll ride with other people, and one person has a skill level at a set level. The other rider might not quite be there. Ride your level. Do not try and ride somebody else's.
As we think about summer months, I imagine there is a great thought about going on these long trips on your motorcycle, right? Really getting out there, enjoying the open road, so to speak. But you mentioned not riding beyond your capability. And I would imagine after a long trip, you can get tired, maybe not be as aware of things going on around you. I wonder if you see that and observe that in riders.
That doesn't only go on for long trips, but you're talking about almost drowsy riding or not having the mental readiness to be on a motorcycle. So again, if you're having a bad day, if you just had a fight with a significant other, if you're having a bad day at work and you're like, I'm just going to hop on a motorcycle to blow off some steam, might not be the right mindset for you to do that.
Yeah, same things we talk about in a car, but you're protected, at least in a car, with the metal around you. On that bike, you really are exposed not only to the elements, but anything.
Except for the proper gear, yes.
Anything around you. So, we always emphasize that look out for each other, right? For the motorcyclist to look out for the vehicle, but obviously that driver to look out for the motorcyclist. It's a two-way street, and I think that's a really important message.
Yeah, we always see the signs on the highway, look twice. Please, as a car driver, do that. Turn your head and look. Check your mirror and look.
That blind spot, right?
Before changing lanes, because we could be right there.
It's very true. And even summertime, you think about mowing grass. If you have a property along the highway, throwing out those grass clippings, it really can be slippery, right? Especially get some rain out there, and could be dangerous for a motorcycle. We don't think about it in a car, but that's so important.
That's true. That is true. And we talk about that in the motors class. I know we like acronyms here, but SIPD. We go to it in great detail, but scanning, identifying, deciding, predicting, and executing. So constantly scanning your horizons while you're riding. So hopefully you see those grass clippings before you encounter them.
No, that's great. Anything else that as drivers we really should, maybe not top of our mind, but for motorcyclists can be really challenging that we should look out for, avoid doing, and be conscious of?
For drivers? For drivers, I'm going to say put the cell phones down. My biggest recommendation is put the cell phone in the glove box, then put the keys in the ignition. It is a huge distraction, and out here in Baltimore on the Beltway, when you're traveling 55 miles an hour, in 3 seconds, you've literally traversed the entire football field.
That's a great
and
message.
A lot goes on in that 100 yards in 3 seconds.
Can you tell us about some experiences that you personally have had on the road when you've been on your motorcycle?
Sure. We're talking about car operators not looking twice. Several weeks ago, I was actually on the highway and legally in a lane I was supposed to be in, traveling at a speed I was supposed to be traveling, and all of a sudden, a car to my right decides to come left into my lane. So using the techniques and training I've had, I was able to avoid said car, and being as a law enforcement motorcycle operator and the unsafe lane change that was just witnessed, I proceeded to make a traffic stop and discuss to the driver what had just happened. The driver specifically stated that he looked and his yellow warning indicator was not active on his mirror. So he assumed it was safe to change. So he never turned his head to look to see if anybody was there, and he didn't physically look in the mirror. He looked at the mirror. So the technology in those mirrors and those warning devices are a great tool to assist you when you look in the mirror and you turn your head to see if that light is activated, but it's definitely not something to rely on going down the road because it can miss a car as well as a motorcycle.
That's a great message, because I think we all applaud the technology in the vehicles, right, as life-saving measures, but it's important to remember that, you know, that human eye, that extra look is just as important as the technology, and you can't just rely on that alone, because think about a bicycle would take even less space than your motorcycle is, and certainly it wouldn't have seen that then if it couldn't detect that you were in that space. Well, so glad that it worked out okay and that you were able to pass that message along to the motorist. Hopefully then they will abide by that going forward and others will be safer on the roadways.
From a motorcycle officer's standpoint, I'm in a different height, seated position. I'm not down in a car. I'm actually sitting kind of high, so it's almost like a truck. So I have the opportunity to see down into cars. And we keep talking about distracted driving. I've seen people with video chats in their hands as I'm riding right next to them, trying to get their attention. I've seen people on cell phones. I can see the text message bubbles on phones. I had a person playing Angry Birds with their iPad on their steering wheel going up 795. So I've seen a variety of distractions inside the car that just doesn't need to be there. For motorcyclists going out there, we all have this image of this perfect motorcycle that is what you want to create. And there's a lot of modifications going on to some of these bikes. You got to remember that the laws are there to protect you and to protect the other cars going down the road. A lot of people are taking fenders off the bikes, and it's taking off your reflectors on your rear. And then they're also taking off reflectors on the front because they want that track appearance. But at nighttime, when they're going down the road, those reflectors are designed to allow cars to identify them as a moving vehicle and which end is forward and which end is rear. So removing a lot of this equipment is inherently dangerous, not only for you as a motorcycle rider, but for these car operators that may not see you. So it's fun to have that vision of that motorcycle you want to drive, but when you're driving it on the public roadway, try and keep those safety features attached to these motorcycles.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I think a lot of valuable information, and certainly for our listeners, you know, MBA is committed to providing all types of training for our new riders. We've got basic rider training. There's a list of resources on the website. Motors training is a great opportunity to be able to enhance your skills even more, especially with our officers from state police and other law enforcement agencies providing that support. Again, thank you for the great service. Thanks for being out there protecting us in all conditions on your motorcycle. Even more challenging, I can only imagine what you see.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us again. Glad to have you for this month's Conversations with Chrissy. Be safe.